This video is brought to you by Mack Weldon. They make great clothes. Antimicrobial. Luke Cage's Netflix solo series marks the first time we've seen the character in his own live-action anything. So as always is the case with most comic book properties, we'll be getting spoiler heavy and getting stuck into the Easter eggs and references that relate to the man himself, other Marvel comic book characters, some more notable than others, links to the movies, hints to previous and future Netflix series, the significance of the music, and more. So stick around, especially if you want to win a loot crate and find out who won the one from last week. Let's start off with the character of Luke Cage himself. Now it's revealed throughout the course of the series that his real name is Carl Lucas, an ex-con framed for a crime that he didn't commit, which more or less lines up with his comic book origins. Now in the comics, his superpowers stem from another attempt to replicate the Captain America Super Soldier program. That's not really implied in this series, as it's said that they're working on enhancing a person's healing capacity, and a series of very specific accidents leads to the creation of Cage's powers. His classic tiara and wristbands are also briefly shown, and we even get a fairly accurate recreation of his original costume, complete with open yellow shirt and chain. And yeah, it doesn't really translate super well, and by that I mean he looks ridiculous. In the comics, his clothes are always being made a mess of, which is the nature of his work, and that's something that's constantly happening here.
I'm about sick of always having to buy new clothes.
Pop also gives him the superhero name Power Man, which is something that he also goes by.
Not a problem for you, Power Man.
And he's given the offer by a few people to work for them. Hired, if you will.
We want to hire you.
I'm not for hire.
This is a nod to both his normal profession and the name of his first comic run. But let's talk the people of Luke Cage's universe. Mercedes Knight, or Misty Knight, appears, who as always is a New York City cop. She looks quite a bit like her comic book counterpart at the end of the series. The outfit and hair are quite similar, and she gets shot in the arm at one point, which could very well be a reference towards her bionic arm, which is traditionally Stark Tech. She was also involved in a relationship with Danny Rand, who'll be debuting in the 2017 Iron Fist TV series. She's partnered with Raphael Scarf, which is the same as in the comics. There's a few other minor characters thrown in for good measure. Rackham, a prison security guard at Seagate. Dr. Noah Bernstein, whose comic book background has his father being a Nazi, who worked on recreating the Super Soldier program, a project that his son then continues. Comanche, as a fellow inmate of Cage's. And Shades, who sometimes comes equipped with a visor capable of shooting lasers or something or whatever, I don't know. As for the villains, Mariah Dillard differs significantly from her comic book counterpart, who's also known as Black Mariah, though Black Mariah was also apparently a nickname of this current incarnation. Cottonmouth is a well-known Luke Cage villain and drug dealer from the early days of his comics, and Diamondback is the name of a few Marvel villains, but this version, Willis Stryker, wasn't a secret brother of Cage, but a friend of his growing up. If you were wondering why he was given this, let's say, interesting costume, it's because that's pretty much what he looks like. He framed Cage in the original Hero for Hire run, again out of jealousy, but it was actually over love interest Reva Connors. And speaking of, let's talk about some of the other characters that have shown up, or will show up, in the Netflix series. Reva was killed by Jessica Jones prior to the events of Luke Cage, under the influence of Kilgrave. We actually get a couple of Jessica Jones mentions, including the time she shot Luke Cage in the head.
Took a shotgun at point blank range, pointed it under your chin, and pulled the trigger.
Still get the occasional headache.
And how she snapped Kilgrave's neck.
That woman over in Hell's Kitchen snapped a man's neck because he was mind controlling her.
Claire Temple again returns as the night nurse, and she's actually even referred to as that at one point.
Escort the night nurse here downstairs.
In the final episode, she takes a number from a flyer for martial arts lessons that has the name Colleen Wing on it, who'll be showing up in Iron Fist. The triads we saw in Daredevil are loosely referenced, as is Wilson Fisk and his current fate of being incarcerated. Ben Donovan returns, who served as Fisk's lawyer. Blake Tower also reappears in his newly appointed role as the district attorney. And we hear Trish Walker over the radio when Luke Cage is running. She's still hosting a talkback radio show like we saw in Jessica Jones.
If you're just joining us, this is Trish Talk, and we are discussing the recent events that have the residents of Harlem confused and some even frightened.
And of course, we can't forget Turk Barrett, who shows up again as a low-level criminal, who you might remember as the guy who gets punched in the face by Daredevil quite a lot. Of course, no Marvel property is complete without multiple references to other Marvel properties, and this is no exception. We again get people referring back to the Chitauri invasion, or as it's now known as the incident. I mean, that sounds less ridiculous than that time a hole opened up in the sky and all these aliens came through and everyone was like, holy shit! Then a bunch of brightly colored people in costumes showed up, and one of them, the one who looks a lot like a robot, flew a nuclear weapon, which was aimed directly at the city. How crazy is that in itself? Through the wormhole, which then closed, and then all the weird aliens died. And that green monster was there. You know, that one that smashed up Harlem that one time? Or maybe he saved everybody? Who's to say? It was kind of dark. Anyways, apparently bootleg footage of that is now a thing. Go figure.
Tony Stark, the big blonde dude with the hammer, the old dude with the shield, the green monster, and I don't mean Fenway. You can't get better raw footage of the incident anywhere else than right here.
We also see Luke Cage using a door as a shield. That could be a reference to how Jessica Jones did the same thing. And that could be a reference to how Captain America did that same thing. And of course, we get multiple references to specific Avengers, like how Luke Cage is referred to as Harlem's Captain America, and this about Thor.
Now, unless this sidearm that I'm wearing suddenly turns into some kind of magic hammer, this whole job is irrelevant.
Also, the weapons used to take out Luke Cage are hammer tech.
Stój, dobrze. Tam.
This ain't shit.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
You probably remember him as the Tony Stark knockoff from Iron Man 2, with the last time we saw him being in the Mandarin one-shot, All Hail the King.
Look at this guy. What is so special about him? I mean, I had an army of robots. What's he got? He's got some dumb accent? And his name's Trevor. What is that? Like if Bin Laden and Benny Hill had a baby.
There's also a reference to some non-Marvel properties, such as Diamondback mimicking a line from the Warriors.
Carl, come out and play.
And also Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained.
I lit that shit up like a 4th of July. Was on some Django Candyland shit for real. Lights, camera, action, baby. Somebody call Quentin!
Funnily enough, Tarantino has always been a big fan of Luke Cage, and has expressed some interest in the past in directing a film. In fact, he considered that for the movie to make after Reservoir Dogs, but ended up going with Pulp Fiction. Also, this is unrelated, sort of, but he mentioned recently that his version would have gone in a slightly different direction.
Is there anything, like, as a fan, what kind of things would you want to see?
Well, frankly, to tell you the truth, I mean, I might be one of their pains in their asses, because, I mean, I love the way the character was presented so much in the 70s that I'm not really that open to a rethinking on who he was.
Yeah.
Because I just think that first issue, that origin issue, and then the kind of follow-up next 4 issues, that first issue was so good. And it was really Marvel's attempt to try to do a blaxploitation kind of movie vibe, as one of their superhero comics. And I thought they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. So just take that issue 1 and just put it in script form and do that.
Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention the music of Luke Cage, as this series featured a number of prominent artists. Now, honestly, music isn't really my area, so I'll just touch on a few. Each episode of the series is named after a Gangstar track, and Dapper Dan the Hip Hop Tailor makes an appearance. The most significant cameo, though, is Method Man, who's present in the convenience store holdup, who then ends up vouching for Luke Cage. The name John Blaze is also mentioned in passing in an earlier episode.
Got that John Blaze shit.
This is an alias of Method Man, and also the name of the first Ghost Rider, Nicolas Cage. Johnny Blaze. And of course, no Marvel property is complete without the appearance of Stan Lee. Here he is. Good to see you, Stan. Never die. You know, although you will. We all will. But your memory will live on. Well, you know, until the Earth is enveloped by the sun in a few billion years, then all references to everything ever will be erased from existence. And on that note, like I said, this video is brought to you by Mack Weldon, a clothing company that I genuinely love. And I mean that. I only endorse things that I actually like or see value in. And they make sweet hoodies, t-shirts, socks, underwear, polos, bunch of other stuff. And they're this thing called antimicrobial, which basically means they don't smell weird after you've worn them all day. And I can attest to that. So if you're like Luke Cage and in need of some new clothes, See, I'm tying it all in. I know what I'm doing. Maybe visit MackWeldon.com and use the offer code Mr. Sunday Movies, all one word, for 20% off your purchase. Then maybe you'll be as handsome as this guy. But you know, probably not. What a prick. T-shirts are still great though. I mean it. Also, here's the winner of last week's Loot Crate. If you're that person, just private message me these details on my channel and I'll sort that out. And if you want to win next week's one, you can just leave any comment below, which could include some of the Easter eggs that I've missed. I'm sure there's a bunch. Go nuts. Knock yourself out. That'd be great. Spectacular.
Sweet Christmas. Sweet Christmas. Sweet Christmas.
Man, don't start with that sweet Christmas shit.
Also, if you do like Luke Cage, 2 things. Come back this Thursday for our final episode in this series of Caravan of Garbage, where we'll be looking at one of the most entertaining Luke Cage stories that you could possibly imagine. It's incredible. You can turn on notifications to know when that's ready. And also this Monday on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, we're getting stuck into this season of Luke Cage and how it ended up. I got some stuff to say, believe you me. But thanks for watching this though. I appreciate it. Take care.